The stars gleamed like scattered diamonds across the void, but none dared outshine the gleam of the Imperial Armada as it breached the edge of Sol's gravity well. 5,000 vessels, each a testament to millennia of dominance, descended upon the silent solar system like a curtain of inevitability. For the Galactic Empire, this wasn't a war. It was a formality, a ritual meant to remind every sentient species under its domain who still ruled the stars. Fleet Commander Valari stood tall at the apex of her warship's observation deck, arms clasped behind her back. Her ceremonial armor shimmered under the tactical lights, her expression carved from stone. She surveyed the screens before her, where a spinning blue marble hung in the middle of a holographic ring. Earth, she muttered. Class G civilization, isolated, primitive, and now insubordinate. Her second-in-command, Commander Tyrax, inclined his head. High Command reports intercepted transmissions mocking the Empire's authority. Jokes, images, and... He paused, squinting at a scrolling feed. A looping video of a human in undergarments dancing while captions declare our fleet is about to get clapped. Valari narrowed her eyes. They're laughing? Yes, Commander. They seem to believe this is a game. Valari didn't smile. Then we'll make them choke on their laughter. She waved her hand. The ship's comm system pulsed to life. To all vessels, initiate the iron descent. Across the darkness, the fleet shifted. Like a storm of metal titans, they began descending toward Earth's orbit in synchronized columns. Hundreds of planets had been silenced by such maneuvers. Thousands of species had surrendered at first contact. Earth, Valari assumed, would soon join them. But on the other side of that descending armada, somewhere beneath the Pacific Ocean, a different kind of command room buzzed with activity. Admiral Yara Feld leaned forward, elbows braced against the steel table in the operations submarine Orpheus. She was 48, brilliant, and far too calm for a woman whose planet was under siege. Her uniform bore no medals, just scars from battles no alien would ever find in official records. In the shadows behind her, walls glowed with tactical data, silent pulses, and networks humming with artificial intuition. They really sent the whole parade, Yara said, sipping coffee from a chipped mug. No scouting fleet, no diplomacy, just straight to fireworks. Her adjutant, Lieutenant Rios, tapped a few keys. They're broadcasting a terms of surrender vid to all major frequencies. Also, they tried to disable our orbital satellites. They've been rerouted. Let the satellites go dark, Yara said. I want them to think we're blind. What about the response? Yara glanced at the holoscreen. The Empire's envoy ship was preparing to beam an ultimatum across the globe. Feed them the sketch, she said. The one with the flaming chicken and the Emperor's face on the back of a cow. Rios blinked. Seriously? Yara just grinned. Let's show them what 4,000 years of peace does to a species with internet access and too much caffeine. 23 minutes later, Fleet Commander Valari stood stunned aboard the Vigilant Spear, her face blank as a grotesquely edited Earth video played on the main viewer. An animated chicken flailed across the screen while a poorly lip-synced alien emperor sang a human pop song about regret and lactose intolerance. Silence reigned on the command deck. Tyrax finally spoke. Is this their rejection? Valari's voice was cold. It is mockery. They don't seem frightened. They will be. Earth's sky darkened as the first barrage began. Particle lances carved through the ionosphere, vaporizing abandoned orbital stations and shredding obsolete satellites. The Empire's method was precise. Damage infrastructure, induce panic, force surrender before deploying ground units. But something went wrong. The first ship to enter low orbit blinked off sensors. The Carthy's Blade, a cruiser larger than Manhattan, disappeared without a trace. No explosion, no distress signal. Then another, and another. Valari's eyes darted across her command screen. 37 ships lost in under 2 minutes. Report. Tyrax's fingers flew. We're detecting massive gravitational anomalies, artificial. They're being generated from the planet's surface. Sir, it's not interference. It's real. Valari leaned forward. How? The answer came in the form of a ripple, silent, invisible but catastrophic. One of the dreadnoughts began folding in on itself, hull collapsing as if crushed by a titan's fist. Then came the railguns. They weren't visible from space, but their projectiles, slugs traveling at Mach 23, pierced even Imperial shielding. Valari stared in horror. How are they doing this? Tyrax's voice was tight. Earth's surface shows no visible installations capable of these effects. The problem wasn't visibility. It was misdirection. For centuries, Earth had prepared. In secret bunkers buried beneath oceans, mountains, and ice shelves, they had constructed the impossible. They didn't build fleets to match the Empire. They built traps, predictive AI systems, EMP webs, quantum jammers, railgun nests buried beneath the Grand Canyon and disguised as erosion sensors, plasma mirrors hidden in desert salt flats, stealth drones cloaked in low-orbit debris fields. The humans hadn't prepared to win a war by matching force. They had prepared to win it by breaking the rules. Yara Feld watched the tactical map as the first wave of invaders fell like dominoes. "They're not used to being hurt," she murmured. "Good. Second wave approaching," Rios warned. "Send the ghosts." At once, hidden hangars across Antarctica and Greenland released their payloads, stealth fighters with adaptive camouflage, heat sinks, and pilot AI hybrids bred for one purpose: to terrify. They didn't strike with missiles. They hacked, jammed, lured Imperial ships into dead zones, then lanced them with pinpoint precision. Back in space, Valari reeled. The Empire had lost over 800 vessels in under an hour. "This is a trap," she hissed. "They planned this." Tyrax nodded grimly. "They knew we'd come eventually. They've been waiting." Valari turned toward the viewer. Earth rotated peacefully below. She didn't understand. This species had barely reached Mars. Their signals were riddled with noise and nonsense. How could they be this dangerous? Her answer came in the form of a message. It hijacked every ship's display in the fleet. A human stood there, tall, bald, dressed in a uniform with no ranks. Just a smile and a pair of mirrored sunglasses. "My name's Jack Monroe," he said, voice calm. "You just made a mistake." Behind him, Earth rose over the curve of the moon like a warning. "You thought 4,000 years of peace made us soft. It made us bored. And boredom in humans is a dangerous thing. We turned it into science, into strategy, into games so brutal we banned them for being too effective." He leaned closer to the screen. "You want war? You got it. But this isn't going to be conquest. This is going to be a lesson." The screen cut to black. In the silence that followed, Valari realized something she hadn't felt in centuries. Fear. The Empire had come to teach, to dominate, to remind the galaxy of its place. But Earth had answered with laughter. And now, with fire. The war had no name, no declaration, no official beginning. But in the silence of obliterated fleet corridors and the static-choked transmissions of dying Imperial cruisers, everyone knew. The age of easy conquests was over. Aboard the Imperial dreadnought Vigilant Spear, Commander Valari paced with a rigidity that betrayed her training. Around her, holograms of ruined vessels flickered, the once proud symbols of Imperial dominance now crumpled icons of defeat. Her officers avoided eye contact. The silence of the command deck was heavy with disbelief. "This isn't just resistance," she said finally, voice tight with fury. "It's orchestration. Admiral Lorvek has requested a full retreat from the forward wedge," Tyrax reported. "His division has taken 82% losses. He fears annihilation." Valari didn't respond immediately. Her gaze fell to a stuttering projection of Earth. The planet looked no different than it had when they arrived. Blue oceans, white storms, a few flashing lights that could have been cities or traps or both. She'd studied human history in her preparation, but only superficially. Primitive wars, chaotic politics, short lives. She now realized the data had missed something critical. Humans weren't just clever. They were entertained by war. "Tell Lorvek to hold," she said. "We don't retreat from backwaters." "We're not retreating," Tyrax said. "We're losing." Before she could reply, the ship's mainframe whined. A low, guttural hum followed by a series of sharp tones. An urgent alert. Valari turned toward the nearest console. A message was being broadcast across their private tactical net. Human in origin. It wasn't a threat. It was music. A pounding drum beat, distorted electric strings, and the screaming voice of a singer demanding fire and vengeance. With it came visuals. Rapid-fire clips of alien ships burning in Earth's upper atmosphere, human pilots with glowing eyes, ground units and exosuits charging through smoke. It wasn't propaganda. It was a highlight reel. Are they mocking us again? Tyrax asked, incredulous. No, Valari said quietly. They're documenting. She stared as the footage cut to a figure in a black flight suit and red visor, standing atop a smoldering Imperial wreck. He raised a hand toward the drone capturing the shot, and with a flick of his fingers, gave a mocking salute. The screen faded to black. A single line of text blinked. Round 1 Earth. In the deep-sea command vault beneath the Southern Ocean, Admiral Yara Feld didn't smile when the footage finished transmitting. Her engineers had spent years crafting the psychological payload. It wasn't about fear. It was about control. Status of the Mars decoy? She asked. Operational, Rios replied. Still broadcasting false installations, power signatures, fake construction yards. They think we're expanding outward. Yara nodded. Let them think we've wasted resources in space. They won't expect us to strike inward. Strike? Rios frowned. You're thinking of a counter-invasion? Not yet, she said. We're not ready for that kind of logistics. But we need their data, architecture, neural interfaces, energy cores. We need to know how they got so big, and how to make sure they never get that big again. Yara's silence was answer enough. 2 hours later, aboard the cloaked vessel Rook, Captain Elian Voss stood at the edge of Sol's gravity boundary, gazing out into the abyss. He was Earth's first strike commander, not of missiles but of knowledge. The ship's mission was simple. Infiltrate a crippled Imperial cruiser, recover all viable technology, and get out. Behind him, his team of specialists prepped in silence. No chatter, no ceremony, only precision. Among them was Miratel, a xenolinguist who had once been a pop singer before AI warfare rendered her concerts obsolete. Now she deciphered alien code while humming forgotten melodies. You ready for this? Voss asked, eyes fixed on the distant glow of wreckage tumbling in the black. Is anyone ever ready to board an alien corpse? She asked, sealing her helmet. Fair. The Rook slipped past the Empire's outer net, bypassing dormant sensors and drifting mine clouds. The cruiser they approached, the Talon's Mercy, had lost power but remained structurally intact. Its hull glistened with frost and debris, its lights long dead. They entered through a shattered maintenance port, maneuvering through dark corridors choked with vapor. The Empire's aesthetics were smooth, cold, and utilitarian, beautiful in a sterile, terrifying way. Mira plugged into a console, her fingers dancing across improvised interfaces. They didn't encrypt their internal logs, she said after a moment. It's not arrogance. It's efficiency. They never expected to be boarded. Voss nodded. Download everything. Prioritize neural architecture and weapons telemetry. As the data streamed in, Mira paused. Her eyes widened. There's something else, she said, voice tight. Personnel logs. Notes on species psychology. They studied us. But their models are wrong. They think we fear destruction more than we fear boredom. That we crave structure more than chaos. They misunderstood the foundation, Voss murmured. They thought peace made us docile. Instead, Voss said, pulling up a visual of Earth's meme archives, ancient war games and simulation labs, it made us creative. A sudden tremor shook the cruiser. Warning lights flickered, brief but violent. Mira turned pale. That wasn't us. Move, Voss barked. Something's still alive in this wreck. They retreated just as a section of the ship ruptured behind them. From the breach emerged a shape, six-limbed, armored, its core flickering with unstable plasma. An Imperial failsafe, a last-ditch weapon. autonomous and indiscriminate. Back aboard the Rook, the team sealed the airlock just as the drone scraped against the hull. Voss watched it through the exterior cameras. It didn't try to enter. Instead, it hovered. Then it detonated. The explosion tore across the void, but the Rook held. Barely. They'd reinforced her with layered carbon foam and magnetic field dampeners designed for precisely this scenario. Back in her seat, Mira clutched the drive in her hand like a relic. Was that standard protocol? No, Voss said. That was vengeance. Meanwhile, above Earth, Valari reviewed the reports. A human infiltration team had accessed a cruiser. One of their failsafes had triggered and self-destructed. They weren't just fighting anymore. They were learning. She turned toward Tyrax. Order the remaining fleets to fall back to Mars orbit. We're going to force them into a siege. You believe they'll respond? They're humans, Valari said. They won't back down now. They're insulted. On Earth, Yara received the transmission of the explosion. We got the data, Rios confirmed. They know we're capable of reaching them. They're going to entrench. Yara nodded. Then let them dig in. We won't knock on their door. We'll wait for them to leave it open. As her eyes swept over the map of Earth and Mars, a message blinked onto her private terminal. One sentence. No source. Let the galaxy watch. Yara stared at it for a long moment. Then she replied. They already are. And somewhere, across the stars, thousands of civilizations watched the unfolding chaos. Not with horror, but fascination. Because for the first time in 100 generations, the humans had finally been provoked. And they weren't just laughing anymore. They were planning. The stars burned bright over Mars, but no one aboard the Imperial fleet saw them. They were too busy watching Earth. Inside the command chamber of the Vigilant Spear, Commander Valari stood before a strategic map riddled with red nodes, hundreds of them, all shifting in unpredictable formations. She had seen war. She had led extermination campaigns across 3 spiral arms. But never had she seen something like this. These aren't attack patterns, she said, frowning. They're conversations. Tyrax didn't understand. Excuse me? She tapped a console. Dozens of mirrored drones burst from Earth's exosphere, scattering like metallic seeds across the void. We won't play into that, she said. Instead, we'll make them second-guess their own. Back aboard Vigilant Spear, alarms blared. Unidentified contacts, barked the sensor officer. Thousands, no, tens of thousands. Closing from multiple vectors. Firing solutions? No hostile signatures. No propulsion trails. They're passive. Some of them aren't even armed. Valari's expression hardened. What are they? Tyrax leaned over the console. Probes, decoys, jammers, surveillance tech, possibly even listening posts. It's a cloud. It was more than a cloud. It was a blanket, suffocating, omnipresent. Within minutes, the Imperial fleet's sensor systems were overwhelmed. Signals doubled back on themselves. Ghost images formed. Heat signatures blurred. They had superior firepower, but they'd just been blinded. Valari slammed her fist against the console. Fire an EMP net. I want those clouds burned. Deploy antimatter pulses to sweep them out. Tyrax hesitated. Won't that reveal our own systems? Yes, she said coldly. But if we wait any longer, they'll be flying our ships before we do. The Vigilant Spear lit up like a dying sun. Pulses rippled outward, vaporizing swathes of Earth's decoy swarms. For a moment, the battlefield cleared. Then came the silence. No counterattack. No chatter. Nothing. And then, precisely 9 minutes later, every screen aboard the Imperial Dreadnought flickered to life. Not with warnings. With a video. A child's birthday party. Balloons. Laughter. Cake. Then sudden static. A montage of human history followed: Roman phalanxes, Mongol hordes, Napoleonic fire lines, trench warfare, nuclear tests, digital command simulations. It was an evolution of brutality in 30 seconds. At the end, a single phrase: peace was the dream, war is the default. Valari's hands trembled slightly, not from fear, from awe. They're not hiding their nature, she whispered. They're celebrating it. In a forgotten mining colony near Neptune, Captain Elian Voss watched the same message from a commandeered Imperial satellite. His infiltration team had spent days carving into the back end of the Empire's auxiliary command net, and now they had access to deep protocols, resupply schedules, fleet movements, diplomatic ciphers. They don't realize how deeply we've infected them, Mira said beside him, scrolling through Imperial schematics. Their systems weren't designed for this kind of war. They're too centralized, too trusting of authority. That's because their authority earned trust, Voss replied. They've ruled the stars for so long. They forgot what rebellion looks like. He paused, then added, let's remind them. Back on Earth, Yara watched as the Imperial fleet repositioned again. Their dreadnoughts no longer flared with confidence. They clustered like prey. Earth's forces had yet to fire a single real shot across Mars' orbit. And still, the Empire was shrinking. They don't know what to make of us, Saad said. They want clarity. They want an enemy that wears a uniform, marches in rows, and dies on command. They want a story they understand, Yara murmured. We're giving them chaos instead. Saad shifted. It won't last. At some point, they'll hit us just to feel in control again. I'm counting on it. She tapped into Earth's hidden orbital defense grid, weapons they hadn't used since the last asteroid threat. These weren't kinetic railguns or energy lances. They were logic bombs, swarm disruptors, command inversion hacks. Not tools of war, tools of madness. And they were aimed right at the Empire's centralized command cores. Just as Valari finally ordered a surgical strike against what she believed to be the core of Earth's military array, a glacier-ridden installation in Antarctica, the entire Empire fleet stuttered. Not their weapons, their orders. Dozens of capital ships froze mid-formation. Others turned at odd angles. A carrier fired into one of its own escorts. Communications broke down. It wasn't sabotage. It was subversion. In the silence that followed, Earth sent a single message, decrypted effortlessly by Imperial receivers. You brought a spear to a civilization knife fight. The response was immediate. The Vigilant Spear initiated a controlled collapse of its fleet's command AI, reverting all operations to manual authority. It was a desperate move, one that had not been used in centuries. It gave commanders full autonomy, but it also shattered unity. Now, the Empire's greatest strength, coordination, was gone. Back in the Andes vault, Yara received the updated battle telemetry. They just decentralized, Rios said. They've never fought like this. Not in recorded history. Then they'll tear themselves apart trying to adapt, she replied. Send in Voss's package. High above, in the orbit of a dying Imperial satellite, Elian Voss deployed a last-stage payload, an artificial intelligence spliced from Earth's oldest wargame AIs, rebuilt with real-time adaptability. It had no orders, only instincts, to learn, to fight, to win. It leapt into the fragmented Empire net like a virus finding a cracked bloodstream. Valari felt it before she saw it. The systems around her began second-guessing her commands. Weapons took a half-second longer to arm. Shields fluctuated. Not disabled. Uncertain. Seal all ports. Lock down all data lines, she ordered. We've been infiltrated again. But it was too late. The AI didn't shut them down. It advised them. It offered tactical suggestions faster than her own officers. First, she ignored it. Then she tried one of its recommendations, and won a skirmish. It wasn't fighting them. It was teaching them. For a fleeting moment, Valari understood. This wasn't just war. It was a conversation across species. Earth had no interest in conquering. They wanted to test the boundaries of imagination. They weren't merely fighting back. They were offering an invitation, and that terrified her more than any weapon. Stand down, she ordered. The room went still. Tyrak stared. Commander, Valari looked at the star map. This isn't a war we can win through force. Every move we make only teaches them how to beat us faster. They're not inferior. She exhaled, slowly. They're new. Back on Earth, the final Imperial ships broke formation and began retreating toward the outer system. Yara watched their withdrawal with no celebration. Only calculation. Will they return? Sod asked. Yara narrowed her eyes. They always do. And far beyond the solar system, in the glass halls of the Galactic Assembly, the footage of Earth's defense, of its laughter in the face of war, played on every screen. Worlds shivered. And others started to smile. Because for the first time in 4,000 years, something interesting had finally happened. Let me know if you'd like a continuation or an epilogue for the story.